Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is the game between Bent Larsen playing on the white end and Boris Spassky. This was from the USSR versus the rest of the world match of 1970. Spassky at the time was world champion, and well, let's see how the world champ handled 1b3. I think you'll find this chess miniature to be aesthetically pleasing. The unorthodox Danish Grandmaster is the guy behind this very start to the game, noted as Larsen's attack. Spassky replying with e5, bishop b2, knight c6, and move 3 c4 is not so common nowadays. e3 is more common, more flexible, keeping open the option of bishop to b5. Now that c4 is in, we can say that black's queen knight feels a little bit more secure. King knights are now out. Black grabs some space and continues to develop. Knight takes knight, and black makes an exception to the rule of taking towards the center here. D takes on c6. Black is really looking for, or to build on his lead in development, and yes, black already has, just 6 moves in, a lead in development. Only 3 moves out before connecting rooks now. How did we get to this point? Well, that king knight took 3 steps to take a knight that only took 1. Continuing e3, there's some attention on e4 by both sides, bishop e2, and queenside castles. So, queenside castles does 2 things in just this one turn: king safety, rook activity. That's nice, and certainly something to consider when you have either an open d-file or half-open d-file to work with. Black is now working with a half-open file. Continuing, we have f4. A better idea is to start launching some pawns, or attempting to at least, launch some pawns towards the enemy king. Larsen goes with f4 instead, taking out the e5 square, taking the e5 square under his control. Black should not capture on f3 en passant because of queen takes bishop with check. Important details, otherwise maybe black could capture on e2. So, okay, what do we do here? Just 10 moves in, and yeah, we're not long out from this game just being over, so what does Spassky stir up? What's the plan here? Well, follow-up, knight to g4 is adding some pressure to e3 and opening the queen's eyes to the h4 square. Following up, white takes out this option of queen to h4. And what would you do in this position? If you'd like to, this will just be the first of 2 pop quizzes in this game. What would you do in this position as black? Feel free to pause the video. Okay. If you're tempted to capture on this e3 square, it's not a bad idea. You could go in for, knight takes. Computer is a fan of this, but this is not as decisive as the following idea, Spassky's idea. Namely, to throw your h-pawn towards the h4 square. Okay? This is a super serious threat of h4 and activating. What is h4 really doing? It's looking to activate the one piece that isn't doing anything. Every one of black's pieces is doing something except for the rook on h8. But soon, the rook on h8 will be brought to life by way of h4 and then a capture. How does white deal with this? h3. And the reply here is just amazing. Spassky just ignores the threat on the knight after h3. He says, you know what? I want the h-file to open up, and I will get that. h4. Okay? Pawn takes knight is the follow-up. And now, pawn takes pawn. This pawn, you cannot put a value on this guy. He is now passed. He is just 2 steps away. There is tension between the rooks. There is a lag in development for Team White. What are these guys doing? Nothing. the game move, rook to g1, doing something else, such as taking on h1, and then taking here, that's going to be painful because of check, and that's a killer pawn. Mate in 3 already. Computer suggests queen d3. That's when you know you're having a tough day. So, what does Bent Larsen do here? He plays rook to g1. And the second of 2 pop quizzes right now. What would you do? There are many good moves in this position, but what was the move that Spassky played here? It's a really beautiful move. If you'd like to go ahead, pause the video. What would you do? What did Spassky do? Okay, Spassky's star move, move 14, rook to h1. Was that on anyone's radar? Yeah, we're just giving away a rook for what reason? Well, let's see. The game follows with rook takes rook, g2. This pawn is just continuing to march, and with great effect now. Punch thrown at the rook, and now the queen is ready to sweep into h4 with check. This is so serious that white sees it best to play rook to f1, putting the rook on a square where it could be captured. Doing otherwise, playing to, let's say, g1, allows the queen to sweep in, and after king to d1, to now go all the way down to h1. What's this rook doing? There's not a connection between the rooks here, and this is game over. This isn't a case even where you could say, you know what, I'll give the material back, because you're going to get mated. So, instead of playing rook to g1, we have rook to f1 in the game. The follow-up, queen h4 check, king to d1. If you block with the rook, black simply promotes. So king to d1, and after pawn takes rook, promoting to a queen, Larsen threw in the towel. And for good reason, this is already a mate in 3. What to do here? After bishop takes queen, we would have bishop takes pawn check. If the bishop blocks, game over. And if the king tries to run, that will also result in game over. What an end. Just a 17 mover and a crazy h-pawn that simply went on a rampage. And what was the reason for this? Well, another case of one side, it's another instance here where one side has a great lead in development and put that to use. Black was way ahead development-wise, and these guys just never even got off the back rank. Anyhow, as usual, feel free to leave any feedback to this chess miniature in the comment section below. Hope you're having a great day, and I'll catch you in the next video. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.